Today, I'll be giving you a look into what we offer here at WorshipTools and how you might use our resources at your local church. We're going to start here on the WorshipTools website, worshiptools.com, and then we'll make our way into each of the apps themselves so that you can get a better look. WorshipTools currently has 4 apps, and access to all 4 is included with every WorshipTools account, and all the apps are designed to assist churches in various areas of ministry. We offer 3 different plans, Free, Pro, and Pro Plus, and as I just mentioned, access to all 4 apps is included with every WorshipTools account, including those on the free plan. First up, Presenter is our church presentation app for Windows and Mac computers. With Presenter, you'll put together all the visual elements that you want to share with your congregation on the screens during the church service. This includes lyric slides, announcement slides, images and videos, sermon slides, scripture slides, and so on. Presenter can be installed on as many computers as you need. We don't charge for extra seats, and as long as your computers are connected to a reliable internet network, all the work that you do on one computer will sync to the other computers as well as your other WorshipTools apps. This means that you can prepare slides at home and have them ready to go on the church computer when you show up on Sunday morning. Next, I'll jump down here to talk about the Charts app, which is for anyone who partakes in leading musical worship during service. So it can be a helpful tool for contemporary worship bands, choirs, traditional musicians, vocalists, students, and more. This app is available on Apple and Android mobile devices or via the web on any other device. Then we have Planning, which is for leaders and volunteers. Leaders can go in and plan services, manage the song library, and manage volunteer roles and schedules. When volunteers are invited to serve on a service, they can accept or decline and access all the service details right in Planning or in the other WorshipTools apps. One of the biggest benefits of WorshipTools and one of the key reasons why you might choose WorshipTools over other solutions is that you're getting 4 distinct apps, particularly the combination of a native presentation app and a planning app that are constantly syncing data with one another. So you don't need to be constantly emailing song files to your team every week or putting sermon slides on a thumb drive to take to church. If you start building a service in one app, say Planning, and you add songs to that service in Planning, that service will sync to Presenter and Charts in real time immediately, and you'll find the corresponding lyric slides and chord charts in those other apps ready to go. This sync works all ways, so you can start your service in any app on any device at any time. The only requirement is that your devices are connected to a reliable network so that your data and information can be properly sent and received by the different apps and devices. Last but not least is Community, which is a database management system. And with Community, church leadership can manage information regarding church attendees, such as addresses, phone numbers, birthdays, what small group they're a part of, whether they're a part of men's or women's ministry, youth or children's ministry, their favorite flavor of ice cream, basically anything. The other cool thing about Community is that it can be used to send out mass communications. And let's actually open up Community and look at all these features together. Here's the dashboard with a little overview of all the information on your community account. The people page is where you'll find the list of all the people attending your church. You can add people manually through Community or import them with an Excel or CSV. When adding information about people, we have preloaded fields like name, address, and birthday, but custom fields will allow you to create additional fields to log essentially any extra information you want. For example, you can see that I have custom fields set up for community groups, leaders, ministry, and even a checkbox to indicate if someone is a youth or kids parent. These custom fields are important because they also come in handy when sending out communications through Community. Emails in Community don't work like your typical email client where you can just type someone's email and hit send. It's specifically for bulk emailing to groups of people, so you have to select recipients by groups. Those groups are largely determined by your fields and your custom filters, so you can send communications to everyone on your list, or you can send to certain groups based on your custom fields and filters. For example, you can email all the people in the men's ministry about an upcoming men's retreat, or send an email to the whole church about a weather-related closure, or maybe the downtown community group is not meeting this week because the leader has food poisoning. Community is a very useful tool, and it's super simple to use, and it's free, as are all the WorshipTools apps, so definitely check out Community if you're looking for a way to manage church contacts and information. Next, we're going to jump into the Presenter app, which is the most robust of the 4 apps, but for the sake of time, I'll just give you a high-level rundown of what you can do with Presenter. In Presenter, you have separate libraries or menus for services, songs, scriptures, slides, and media. When you create a service, you'll borrow elements from these other libraries to build your presentation. For example, this service, which opens here over on the left like this, consists of all of these service items, so announcements, some songs, scripture passages, slides, etc. And you can add new items to the service by clicking Add Item. Each item is going to consist of a background and/or a foreground element. There are multiple options to choose from for both, but basically the background layer sits in the back and the foreground layer sits in front or on top of the background, like how we have these lyrics in the foreground of this motion background. To fire an item to the screen, all you have to do is click on it from the left service panel. If you want to edit it without firing it, click the pencil icon or right-click and edit. If you go to the presenter settings, there's also an option called auto fire that you can turn off. This will allow you to click each item on your service without firing that first slide to the screen. So it allows you to preview your items before sending them to the screen unless it's a single image or video item. With scriptures, we have 3 free translations in English and many more in other languages. We also offer a collection of paid Bibles that are $4 per year per translation. When adding Bibles to services, you can select your translation and search your passage. Then you can do one of 3 things. First, you can add it to your service as a service item, as you can see in our service here. This method adds the scripture to the service as its own standalone item, but sometimes we want to embed the scripture in the middle of the sermon slides, or we want to group a bunch of scriptures from different books of the Bible. In that case, we have this second option, which is to convert scripture items into slides. If you have a slide item open when you search a passage, this button will change to Add to Slides, so your scripture will get added to the slideshow that's open in the background. Now, hopefully the pastor gives you the passages ahead of Sunday morning so that you can get those passages into the service order ahead of time, but occasionally they may reference a passage that wasn't planned and ask you to throw it up on the screen on the spot. So the last thing that you can do with scripture is simply click on the verses in this window to fire them directly to the screen. We call this feature Quick Scripture because it quickly sends the scripture out to the audience. Moving on, we also have slides. These are slides that you can create right within Presenter using our built-in slides editor. So these slides would be for any slides that are not songs or scripture, like announcements, sermon slides, etc. Presenter also lets you import PowerPoints, keynotes, and sync from Google Slides if you prefer those presentation options. To import PowerPoints and keynotes, you'll do that through the media library. All external files that you bring into Presenter will be imported through this page, including PowerPoints, keynotes, images, and videos. You can also switch between views to do more in your media library, such as bulk tag, bulk delete, bulk upload to cloud, view as folders by tags, etc. Lastly, you have Presenter settings, and here you'll find options like your preferred default song template, default background for service items, screen configuration settings, and so on. If you need help setting up your screen, visit WorshipTools.com, click Support Docs, and look for the Setting Up Your Screens article under the Presenter section of the docs for step-by-step instructions. We're now in the Planning app, which can potentially be used by all your staff and volunteers. Leaders can go to the People page to add volunteers to the WorshipTools account under various roles, role groups, or teams. And you can see here that I have a few people on my team, each with different roles assigned and varying degrees of permissions. These people can then be scheduled to services under their assigned roles, as we'll see later. Before I continue, I just want to mention the difference between people listed in Community and people listed here in Planning. Community is just a database of entries and names, whereas Planning is a list of active users on your team that have a WorshipTools login. So these people are those that can actually sign into WorshipTools apps and make edits to services, view service details, etc., depending on their permission levels. Roles and role groups can be completely customized per your church's needs. So if you'd like to modify the roles and role groups for your church, you can do that by going to the roles subpage here in Planning. Planning also allows you to communicate with other team members, so you can send messages right in the app for free, and higher permission levels can send messages to groups of people, while lower permission levels will be able to contact account admins. Songs can also be managed in Planning. You'll see your entire library of songs here, but you can also search and import songs from Song Select and Loop Community if you have access to either or both of those resources. When you click to open a song, you'll see all the information you have on file for that song. If you click Edit, you can make changes to the metadata, the lyrics, chords, and more. If your church prefers to sing this song in a different key than the original singer, you can set your preferred default here. You can also curate listening media for your worship team so that they know what version of the song to reference when practicing and preparing a service set list. Over on the right, the Lyrics tab equates to Presenter Lyrics slides. Now the arrangement is actually going to be managed in Presenter, so you'll only see one block per song section here, with each block representing a slide in Presenter. So if you have 4 lines per slide in Presenter, you'll see 4 lines in each box here. In my case, I have 2 lines per slide. Similarly, the Chords tab equates to chord charts in the Charts app, and a special language called Chord Pro, which is specifically designed for writing and rendering chord charts. There is a slight learning curve to Chord Pro if you're completely new to it, but it's incredibly easy once you get the hang of it, and you can find a bunch of resources about Chord Pro in the support docs section of our website under Charts. One thing to note here is that the changes made to one tab won't automatically affect the other, and vice versa. So if you make a change to the lyrics or the arrangement on one of these tabs, you'll need to go and mirror that change on the other tab as well. Lastly, you can upload PDF attachments for songs if you have them available on your computer as an additional resource for your team. For those of you who have Song Select Advanced or Song Select Premium and have access to the lead and vocal sheets, you can't access those through planning, but they will be available for your team through the Charts app if you, again, have access to those resources. Moving on to the services page, this is probably where you'll spend the most of your time once all your people and your songs are, for the most part, added into planning. To create services, click Create. You must have a service date and time as well as a service type, but all the other fields are optional. Service types can be managed on the Service Types subpage. The WorshipTools free plan is limited to 1 service type, but the Pro plan allows up to 5, and the Pro Plus plan allows unlimited service types. We'll touch on this again later, but for now, let's go ahead and create our service. I'm going to skip all the optional fields, but feel free to fill them out if you'd like to. Now we have our service created and we can start building out our service plan. Here on the Order tab, we'll plan the service items. These service items will appear in Presenter, and the songs will appear in Charts. Headers are dividers for organizational purposes. They don't count towards the 15-item limit on the free plan, so you can add as many headers to the service as you need. Items can be blank, song, scripture, or slide, and again, these sync over to Presenter and Charts. Blank is good for blank transition slides in Presenter, or if you need a placeholder in your service for now before you go in and add additional images and videos through Presenter. Songs, scripture, and slides are all pretty self-explanatory too, but one thing to note is that slides refer to Presenter slides, not imported PowerPoint, Keynotes, or Google Slides. These slides must have been created in Presenter prior in order to be available for selection here. Moving over to the People tab, this is where you'll schedule your users or your staff and volunteers to this specific service. You don't need to fill out every role for every service, so just fill out the roles that you need, and once everyone is on the schedule how you like them, you can send out the invitations. The invited people will then receive an email that says something like, "You have been invited to serve as blank, accept or decline." Hopefully they accept, but if they decline, you'll just have to find someone else to fill that position. As you're scheduling, if you need to check for conflicting roles on a service, you can click or tap this calendar icon next to each person's name to see if they're scheduled for any roles on the current service that may conflict with the role that you're trying to schedule. The last tab under services is Rehearse, which is basically the Charts app embedded into this tab. So if you're on the mobile app, you might not see this big chord chart window, and that's because we have a designated Charts app for your mobile device. Before I completely jump over to Charts, let me just go over a couple last things here in planning. Over on the left under Services, or if you're on the mobile app, it'll be at the top of the Services page. We have a few sub-pages for services. Service types will be where you manage those service type categories like Sunday morning, youth group, holidays and events, etc. Depending on your plan, you can add more. The other cool thing that you can do with service types is schedule automated reminders. So for example, for Sunday services, you can set automated reminders so that your team members are notified or reminded leading up to the service if they're scheduled on that service. I believe you're able to make up to 5 reminders per service type, so if you have multiple service types, you can have a different reminder schedule for each one. The scheduling matrix is for scheduling people to services at a bird's eye view. Depending on your screen size, you'll be able to see up to 4 services at a time. You can go down the list and schedule people quickly to your services. Lastly, we have this calendar view for services and unavailable dates. Let's backtrack and go back to that service that we were working on earlier, and let's move on to Charts. This is the web version of Charts, but like planning, Charts is available to download on Apple and Android mobile devices. Here we can see that the songs that we added through both Presenter and Planning are already in our set list. Charts is specifically for the worship team and will only show songs, so you'll notice that all those extra announcements, scriptures, sermon slides, etc. don't show up on the list here. To view the full set list, you can tap the hamburger icon in the upper left corner. You can also view other services from here, edit service details, add songs, access settings, and more. To go back to your song materials, tap the area to the right of the service. If you're on the mobile device, you can tap the left and right edges of your screen to turn pages, or you can swipe your finger left and right across the screen. On the web version, you can use your left and right arrow keys or these arrow buttons. You can also connect a Bluetooth clicker or page turner foot pedal for easier control. When viewing songs, all your song-related settings will be under the song title at the top of the screen. So here you can switch between different sources like songs like chord charts versus your own custom chord pro, or songs like vocal sheets or a PDF you imported, and so on. And song source is unique to each user, as different instruments might prefer different materials. So changing the song source on your device shouldn't affect the people on your team as long as everyone is using their own separate logins. Likewise, the number of columns or chart type are also independent settings, as is capo. Now, capo and key basically do the same thing. However, key affects the entire team since most teams play in the same audible key regardless of their instrument's tuning. If you have a capo applied on your guitar or have an instrument that's tuned differently, you can use the capo function to transpose your music, and that will not affect the rest of your team. One thing to note is that when you're using the capo setting, you want to move this capo setting in the opposite direction of the steps you're moving on the scale. So if you're going from C to D, you're moving up 2 half steps, but in charts you'll actually go down 2 half steps and apply a capo of 10. A final few things that I'll mention with charts. Each person can make annotations on their screen. They can mark up their charts, highlight sections, type in notes, etc. And again, this is independent, so it will not be visible to other people on your team. At the bottom of your service set list, there's this option to connect to another device. This allows you to designate a host device that other people on your team can connect to. Then the host can control page turns for those other team members as long as everyone is viewing the same song source. It won't work with different sources because, for example, a chord chart may be 1 page while a vocal sheet might be 4 to 5 pages. So as you can see, Charts is a very simple and straightforward app, but it has a lot of great features for worship leaders, singers, and musicians. That concludes this basic overview of each of the WorshipTools apps, and I hope that it's been helpful. If you're looking for more resources, check out the support docs section of our website. You can also join us on our Facebook user group to connect with other WorshipTools users from around the world, and or email us at support@worshiptools.com with any questions that you may have for our team.